One of the stories he goes over in the book is this story of a temple or a monastery in Thailand where a young person was sweeping up the meditation hall. And in the back of the meditation hall, there was this huge, kind of somewhat ugly, rocky statue of the Buddha. And his job was to clean up the hall, and he noticed something on the statue of the Buddha. Even though it was really ugly and rocky and kind of discolored clay, he thought to himself, it's really important for me to clean this. That's my job. So he went over there, he tried to clean it. He noticed that it wasn't coming off, this huge statue, 10, 15 feet high, that it was getting bigger. And what he noticed was the clay and the rocks started to crumble, and before he knew it, he realized that the statue was made of solid gold, and that the rocky clay was just an exterior. So he runs to one of his senior meditation monks, and they go on to tell him a story about how hundreds of years in the past, the temple or the monastery was the area in Thailand was under pillagers and other soldiers, and just a bad regime of folks who were going and burning down monasteries who, that didn't agree with their religion. So basically the monks of the time caught wind that this was coming, and they knew that if the soldiers and the pillagers came, they would steal the gold and melt it down and use it for their own purposes. So what they did was they got together and they, patched it up with clay so that it would look ugly and it'd have some rocky exterior. And then when the soldiers and the pillagers came, they burned down the monastery. Unfortunately, a lot of monks were killed. Other monks fled the region. And it wasn't until years later that they came back and rebuilt the monastery around the kind of big clay, rocky Buddha, as a reminder that the clay, the rocky exterior, is what saved the Buddha, or save the statue. And that is what the metaphor is to human beings, and the metaphor is to traumatic adaptations, that rocky exterior that saved the statue from getting stolen and melted down into gold spars is what was being presented in the moment. So the example that you see on your screen here is that the adaptation equals the armor, meaning in some way the individual gets triggered, right? There's some form of subconscious protection. That's the traumatic adaptation, or that's the subconscious triggering the traumatic adaptation. And then the disruptive behavior is what's presented in the external world. That's what you see as the therapist, or you see as the mentor or the coach or the education professional, When we only interact, or when we only view the disruptive behavior, for example, in this example, as nothing else, nothing more, not through a trauma-informed lens, then we're limited in how we can actually approach and engage those young people. When we view it as the spacesuit, when we view it as the rocky clay or the armor protecting the golden statue, and I particularly love that metaphor because it's like I think of these young people that we work with as having hearts of gold, or, having divine hearts. And sometimes the armor and the rocky exterior is what we see.